That's great because I'm already live, so I'm ready to go.
Perfect, perfect. All right, sorry about that. My OBS crashed. Kat, will you intro us in, please?
Welcome, lads and ladettes, to Aether Roundtable number 93, Cosmological Overlap. Who done did it first?
Who done did it first? That age-old question. Was it the Walter Bislin model? Did Shane steal the Walter Bislin model? Or did Asians, all of them, come up with the conceptualized azimuthal grid, personal dome of vision, etc. beforehand? Well, we're going to get into the history of all that. But before we do, special shout out to Habitat Verdadro. He he linked an awesome image in Telegram earlier today and completely captivated me. And I spent all day learning about it so I could share it with the boys and ladettes, lads and ladettes. So here we're looking at three conceptual models here, all representing the same thing, all spanning hundreds of years apart. So to give us a little history into Japan and China and the other Asian territories there, but primarily we're going to be focused on Japan and the Buddhist. So right around the mid to late 1800s, they started introducing Jesuit teachings over there in Christianity. And we're going to get a look at how the Buddhists felt about that, because the Buddhists were originally a geocentric flat earth cosmology, and the new people coming in, the Jezis and the Christians, were putting forward their astronomical belief system, which was heliocentrism and a globe model. So a complete change in everything. In the Meiji dynasty accepted the solar calendar, and so along with that, they accepted globularity and heliocentrism. They ended up outlawing flat Earth and geocentric cosmology discussions for a period. And as that was going on, when they were introducing all this, there was a call to action by a guy named Fuman Enetsu, and he wrote several books on flat Earth geocentric cosmology. We've all heard the term too, like, well, you could be flat Earth, but you can't be flat Earth and geocentric. Those are two different. Like, we've all heard that whole rigmarole. Absolutely not the case. The whole history of Buddhism and like that whole cosmology is about this flat Earth geocentric, and we'll get into how they would explain the motion of the cosmos through the way that we perceive it. So anyway, from this Enetsu guy, he had a couple of disciples that were like the big figures that helped argue and battle the Western teachings. So we're going to be focusing on a guy named Sada Kaiseki and his buddy Kumaramu, something like that. We'll get to him in a second. But those are going to be our primary characters. And then we're going to take a look at the principles that were used to derive the model, and then the model itself. Okay, so to start us back here, we're going to look at some quotes here from some of the disciples and their writings. So we have quotes here from their books, and then what their thoughts were. So what they were asserting basically was that the introduction of Christianity and Jesuits came along with the globe Earth and heliocentrism, and these were you couldn't separate heliocentrism and globe Earth from Christianity, the way that it was being pushed over there. And it started with getting the emperor of the Meiji dynasty to accept the solar calendar. And once he accepted that, they changed the school curriculums to all the Western teaching. So they updated everything and just started teaching heliocentrism. And then that's when they outlawed flat Earth geocentrism arguments. So we got a bunch of quotes here, but we'll continue on. So this was their previous cosmology here. This is what they were putting forward with Mount Meru, or Mount Sumeru, they called it. So we have this giant mountain here that extends to the heavens. We have a flat Earth, disk Earth here, and we have the different layers of cosmology. So that, like, there's heavens, there's the Earth that we're in, and then there's the like hell or whatever. So they had this whole multi-layered cosmology here, centered off of flat Earth and geocentrism, where everything revolves around us. So one of the big things that the lads did to counter the Western teachings was they took their curriculum, their school books, their diagrams, their text, and they flipped it on them, and they showed how perspective and Snell's law, refraction, other optical illusions make things unreliable when it comes to determining the heavens and the earth and all that. And they put forward the idea that there's a true, what we would call now the spatial field, where things reside in three-dimensional space, but you don't see that, right? Like if things are close, you're not going to see much of a deviation from that. But as you get further and further out, that's where you're going to get the separation from the two, and you're not going to be looking at a one-to-one description of reality with your eyes. It's just not how it works. So they go through meticulously and show all that. They got refraction examples here showing how that could affect the position of a body with respect to its true position. They're showing a parabolic mirror here, where once the fish there that they're reflecting passes the focal point, it inverts it and flips it. So they're showing all these different optical phenomenon to explain the cosmos and how it could work. Here they're showing perspective and the size. So in the Western teachings, they were saying that, the Western astronomers are saying that the sun is 822,000 miles wide, but when you look at it with your eye, it's only 7 inches, and so, or whatever their unit is for because it's in their metrics or whatever, but 0.5 0.5 degrees of angular size, so it's much smaller than what, if it was 820 miles, it would take up the whole sky. But it doesn't. So they were going through it using these examples, and they were like, look, you guys got it all backwards. And so we have, so with that description of optics and different phenomenon involving optics and how that deviates from where something is truly in three-dimensional space, this guy named Kaiseki comes up with a conceptual model that he puts forward. So we're going to read a little bit about the principles of optics before we get into the model here. So I found this document here and then translated it. It's from this website. You guys can check it out. It's covering the history of all of this. There's several sites and books referenced here throughout this. You guys all the links are provided. But anyway, we'll just read here. So it says, the machine illustrated, and this is talking about the model that he puts forward. We haven't seen it yet, but this is, I'll just show you real quick before we get to it. So this is the physical conceptual model here that he puts forward. And we'll get into how it works and all that. But so just so you can see what the text is talking about. So the machine illustrated on the right was created by Master Sada Kaseki. From ancient times, no one in the world had clearly explained both principles of the visual and the actual appearances, so that spatial field where things reside in three-dimensional space versus the apparent where you see it in the spatial field or visual field. So people mistakenly take what they visually perceive to be true from, and thus the true shapes of the heavens and the earth remain hidden. To clarify this principle, he deliberately chose a secluded place. So he went into this Kaseki guy, he went into seclusion for 13 years when meditated. And then on his 13th year or whatever, he came out and was like, yo, I have this idea for this model. And he had that, what I showed earlier, made. So on the day of sudden enlightenment, he constructed the instrument to make the principles of visual and actual appearance easily understandable to all. He named it the instrument of observing equal appearances. So that's going to be really cool when we break down how it works, because he demonstrated it exactly and even used specific ratios so that everything would line up. So now then, what is the visual appearance? It is an assumed form when large things appear small and when tall things appear closer to the ground, when they appear low in the horizon. That is what we call the visual appearance. So what this man just described was the visual field. The actual appearance, or what would be called the spatial field now, which is where an object resides in 3D space, is the true form as it is. For example, the heavens that stretch tens of thousands of miles remain tens of thousands of miles wide without the slightest variation. That is called actual appearance. There are 5 types of visual appearance: visual size, visual width, visual height, visual distance, and visual curve. No way they had optical curvature in the 1800s before they were even doing alley experiments with the Royal Society. No way that was happening. But anyway, they knew what was up with that, and they literally took their diagrams and argued against it, or flipped it on the Western teachings. So now the example here is the visual size. So the phenomenon where large things appear small. For the example, we have the sun with a diameter of 822,000 miles, and the human eye observes it as 0.5 degrees of angular size. This discrepancy is what we call visual size. And it should be noted that in the 1940s, maybe early 50s, there was an optics guy named Carl Rudolf Lundberg, and he basically put forward a specific theory for curved visual space regarding a negative curvature value for his theory. But in that book, or in one of his books that he is laying out his theory, he gives the example of the discrepancy between Euclidean optics, where if the sun were 822,000 miles in diameter, it would take up the entire sky, but we only see it as this little dot, 0.5 degrees in angular size. And he's like, to rectify this, like you can't say that it's Euclidean. So there's a deviation from it, and this is going to be called curved visual space and all that. So we're looking at like there's nothing new under the sun, as they say, or whatever. This is way earlier than this, about 100 years before our boy Carl. All right, so the next one is the visual height, where things that are tall appear to be low. For instance, Mount Fuji, as seen from Harajuku or Yoshiwara, appears to be about 4 kilometers tall. But when viewed at sunrise from Asama in the Isle, it appears to be within the solar disk and even lower than half of the diameter of the sun. This phenomenon is where tall things appear low. This is what is meant by visual height. So they got their own little Mount Canigou over there. And then we have visual curvature. This is where flat things appear to be round. When viewing the sky from Tokyo, only the zenith appears high, while the edges of the sky seem to descend to meet the earth. No matter where one stands in the distant sky always appears to meet the land. This is not because the heavens are actually curved. It's the celestial dome is flat. But to the human eye, it appears dome-shaped like a straw hat. This is what we call visual curvature. In this way, visual and actual appearances are fundamentally different. Yet, how we match the equivalence is something to be understood by referencing the diagrams. So that's where he gets into his model to show the equivalence between the two. So to kind of recap here, he's putting forward the idea that and this is how, celestial navigation is done, assuming that the stars are coplanar with the Earth for as far as you can see, and then they'll introduce refraction corrections to make them still be at the visible angle that they're at, instead of disappearing with the 15 degree per hour getting occluded by curvature. So there's the relationship of making things appear to be coplanar with corrections is exactly what's done today. Like it's not like, oh, they thought it was a flat disk of the heavens, but now it's not. They realized it's a globe, and there's 2 celestial spheres. One was a terrestrial sphere. That didn't happen. They just added corrections in the celestial and terrestrial sphere models to keep the stars coplanar, because they are. So that's so nothing has changed yet. Only the way in which you interpret the use of the coordinate system. All right, so closing philosophical notes from this. So this is at the bottom, I'm assuming, but this is what it says from the guy from Seki. Keep saying it wrong. This theory of the quiet and unmoving heavens and earth is so clearly evident that even Mount Sumeru must accept it. Western astronomy, too, can only extend as far as human sight can reach. But Buddhism, dude, isn't that funny that they teach us we can see forever? They're like, no, you can just keep seeing. It's fine. But Buddhism taught us that one could see clearly into the depths of the cosmos through cultivation of the eye of wisdom. So what he's talking about here is a philosophical teaching that he was putting forward in regards to the difference between the apparent and the true. He was saying that the Buddha had the ability to see the true, and if you meditated and was a good practitioner of Buddhism, that you would gain some true sight, and you would be able to see the cosmos and all that for what it was, or portions of it or whatever, or understand it better than someone who wasn't, kind of thing. So that was like his own philosophical twist on that. But who knows? It's probably something real to it too. These teachings go beyond the mere empirical experience and cannot be fully grasped with modern scientific knowledge alone. This theory is modeled and demonstrated as a theory of what we call the equal and actual appearances regarding vision. All right, so that diagram that they were referencing looks a little bit like this. This is the image that was put in Telegram earlier that I was like, oh, this looks exactly like the Walter Bislin model / the Shane St. Pierre model. So I was like, I have to figure out what this is. So I went through that guy's works, some other stuff and other references, and I started piecing this bad boy together. So what we got here, this represents the elevations of the, actually, let's just start with let's go bottom up. So the bottom is represented by the celestial equator. These little rings here is the celestial equator, and you'll see that around these domes here, there is another little notches. That's the terrestrial equator. So we see here that the celestial equator and the terrestrial equator intersect. And apparently all these cosmologies were using a celestial sphere model as a hemisphere, because not only were these people flat earthers, the Chinese were also flat earthers. I forget what their teaching was called, started with an S. And then there was some other one. They were all flat earthers, and they were all referencing the celestial sphere. So they were all using this, but not as a manufactured globe. Like, they all understood that when something was out of your vision, it just wasn't visible to you. So to relate how that would work, because we kind of ran into that yesterday with the celestial theodolite with negative coordinates, right? So the plotting of the negative coordinates, people have been taught to believe that means it's beneath your feet. And we were like, well, it's also equivalent if it's above you, just circling out of your vision. And we're going to see the exact analogy of that. Or, well, we're not going to see it because we don't have a working model of it, but we're going to go through what it would look like and what everyone, said how it performed. So anyway, we got celestial equator, terrestrial equator. We got a dome here, and he was saying that his idea was that each continent had its own layer of atmosphere that created this dome effect. And then in the dome here, there's a south pole, a north pole, and an ecliptic plane, and east and west as it goes over you. And then as we get to the center here, we have the axle here. This is Mount Meru. And then up at the top here, we have the heavens, the real universe, so to speak. And up here, we have the sun, the moon, and 29 stars or 28 stars. And this would rotate. And as it would rotate, you would see the glimmer of the moon, sun, like whatever objects were up here. They would be hanging off of a little chain, and as you would spin this, and also as you spun this would the real universe would go up and down in elevation. So this would represent latitude dependent positions of the celestial bodies with respect to the seasons and time. So like this, dude, this thing is nuts. So you just spin this around, and it goes up and down, and you look at the where the bodies are being displayed in this little grid here. I think that covers everything. We got the ecliptics, north, south, heavens so heavens as viewed by a ground observer. Obviously, the only distinction here is that instead of a dome that covers the whole continent and making it personal to that continent, it's just your field of it. Like, this is just for you. This travels with you everywhere. So this is the difference there. Well, other than that, it's exactly the same. Let's see. Oh yeah. So even right here with the elevations, and then where the objects are rotating above you, how it's displayed down here, it would even represents like your meridian transits when things are going to be at their zenith. It's it was awesome. It was quite a piece of tech here. So here's what it looks like, made with copper, mother of pearl, and some other stuff. We got some diagrams here, further breaking it down. And I went
It
into
wasn't
chat.
just like one of them. They just mass produced them. That was a template or whatever, right? They just stamped them out. Everyone had one.
So he made one, and then that ended up getting destroyed in a fire, and then he made another one, and this is the one that the continuation of the first. Yeah. So let's see here. Anyway, here's another diagram of it, and then just breaking down what all that means.
What's up, dude?
Dan, you're hot micing.
So it's okay, Taylor. All right. So when this guy came up with this, he went to battle with it, right? He started arguing it. He took it on tour. It then ended up dying in a fire mysteriously. And then he had to make a new one. And when he did that, he ended up taking that to like a World's Fair type event in Japan. And he presented they say that like about 1 million people saw that over the course of while it was on display there. And now it's in a museum somewhere. But yeah, that's the history of it. So the true movement, the true positions are moving, and you can see them all. You can see all the apparent positions doing exactly what they do overhead. And this was all done at specific angles and ratios so that the dangling cord, as this thing was spinning that carried the sun and moon and all that, would be would like show up in the reflections here. All right. So when they presented this was at a World's Fair where they were presenting like, steam engines, all the latest and greatest technology and stuff that they were coming up with. So this was, accepted at the time as like, it was part of what those people believed in. Up at like the whole story of like, oh, we've known since we've always known and all this. Dude, as early as the late 1800s, these people had a working model of it. We're actively arguing against it. And then, so not only that, but where's your flat earth map? Guys, you think your boy didn't just make a, what do you call it? An orrery? Is that the word, Shane? Orrery? No.
Could be. If it had planets and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that. So you think your boy didn't just make that? No, he also made a map. So we got 3 lines here that are kind of curved. Oh, that must mean that the Earth's a globe or whatever, right? Nah, not at all, dude. That it represents the arc that the apparent bodies do across the sky with respect to the circular motion of the true bodies. So we got the tropics here, the equator, and the 5 known continents there at the time. And so we read from Sada's work here. He says, from a wide perspective, this map depicts the world of Mount Sumeru, which, in other words, Mount Meru, and the 4 great continents. From a narrow perspective, it depicts the 5 continents of Western cartography on a flat Earth. Unlike the theory that posits that the Earth is a globe, the 5 continents are shown here on the flat Earth. This map is not only useful for Buddhists, but also for Confucianists and Shintoists. Yes, those are the other 2 lads. So like all the Asian lads and ladettes were all flat Earth geocentrists. Because both Confucianist and Shinto astronomy and geography explain the sun and moon as moving between a flat heaven and a flat Earth.
Coplanar heaven, you say? Interesting.
Yep. And then they had some local cartography going on here. This was just like their kingdom or whatever of some region. And this is like how could you navigate on a flat Earth? They were always doing it, guys, forever.
Yeah, that map is pretty busy. There's a lot of stuff on there.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a super HD debunk, like enlarge or whatever.
It certainly does, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of them from that period have like art, like they'll draw like dragons and pictures and mix myth and stuff on the outside, so it's hard to know. It's like, oh, is there really a dragon in this ocean, or did you mean the ocean's really big?
Yeah, both. there's a really
Tough to
big
say.
dude. Imagine they were making like a map, but like kind of mapping it out like you would for Pokemon. They're like, a giant water monster lives here.
This is where the Gyarados is from, dude. That's how you know there's a point of no return.
Technology would have to do this. I mean, just the logistics alone. They would have to go out there. They're in little sailing ships, just going by the wind, with rows and stuff. And they got this guy out there, with a piece of paper, chalk. And, here's Africa. It's ridiculous.
But they did have a good understanding of the night sky, right? So why wouldn't they have been sailors? That was supposedly all that's required. That and a watch, and you're good to go.
It seems like they were. It seems like they were. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, they didn't even have it the satellite. No service.
Actually, they have their own Tycho Brahe given to us by the Royal Society findings. And there was apparently a Chinese guy that lived in a cave that basically invented all the stuff that the Greeks did, and then everyone forgot how to use it for a while. And then
no way, they had all the same stuff.
yeah. And then the star catalogs from this guy, I don't know his name, but it's literally the Tycho Brahe equivalent, same kind of story. Like this guy just made all these instruments. There's no record of how he made them, or trial and error, or like this is my first star log recording. He just comes in hot with perfect star logs.
A sage came out of a cave with everything we needed for this model all of a sudden.
dude, it's so preposterous, bro. And so your boy Cave Dweller came up with all this stuff, and it's all good. Oh yeah. So anyway, the star logs where he did his recordings, he has the same errors and missing data as the published stuff from the Royal Society. So it's almost like after we came through, or after the English came through and got them on board with everything, they kind of like rewrote their history a little bit, and then inserted a character here, a star catalog here to back it all up. Because what I found, like I said, when I was going through this, that all these other places, they were all using the celestial sphere model, but none of them were using it as a globe. And actually, when you Google this now and look into it now, they talk about this as a geocentric globe, but there's tons of references about how that's not it at all. They were using a celestial sphere model only as one Hemi at a time, guys. That's all that's all anyone's ever done, because that's all you can do. That's all you can only see as far as you can see.
But as you know, anytime you look up, you're actually using globe evidence, and that's part of the globe. And you can only use every time you look up is the globe. They made the astrolabe, they say, is actually globe. Everything that's ever been done is actually globe. If you look on Wikipedia or look at the mainstream history, they've recontextualized all of history as globe.
Yeah, they certainly did. Yeah, Stone looked it up earlier in Telegram and copy pasted the excerpt from it, and it was like, just because when we were trying to figure out what this was, because all we had was that image, and it was like, this is the blah 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 geocentric globe model or whatever, and I was like, oh, looks a little globular there, but maybe that's not the case. So I looked in a little further, and then it was like, literally the history of flat Earth is just crazy.
So he chose to represent it with 4.
Yeah. So each one of these represents a continent. So at the time, they only had 4 continents mapped out. So this was representing where you would see the celestial bodies with respect to the elevation of the sun. So basically, seasons and time of year.
So, I mean, that would indicate that each one of those is roughly like what, a quarter of the Earth then?
Yes. Yeah, like I said, he did this at specific ratios so that each one of these would represent, I forget how he divided it up, but there's like a thing on how he divided each one of these up so that it would represent 90 days of the sun's elevation.
Which means, all right, so maybe, but so they probably had a solar calendar, not a lunar solar calendar, and then there was a different length of year, which means.
So the Kaiseki guy made his own calendar too. I couldn't find any details on that yet.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Great.
dude. So yeah, one of the things he did, he wrote like 14 books on astronomy and all this, made this model and also a calendar, made 2 of these models and also a calendar.
Dude, it sounds a lot like Hipparchus, who did the same thing for the Greeks and left some evidence in a cave, wrote 7 books, created like all sorts of mathematic trigonometry and
we have
coordinates.
we have the books though. And we have
For Hipparchus? No, we don't.
No, not Hipparchus, for this guy. For for the Kaseki guy. Yeah. So like all this stuff that I referenced here from this book and that website and this book here, they all
is the book from the guy the sage that came out of the cave with everything? It has just the one book?
No.
Okay.
No, there's multiple books, and then they give all citations for them. The problem is just like getting them and translating because they're all, written in Japanese. And I just discovered this today. So like I just went through this today. So this is super, super early in on it, but there will definitely be a follow-up to find the calendar and some of the other stuff that I came across that I didn't have time to put in. I just wanted to cover the model here and touch on the history of it because, as stated here, the Walter Bislin model that represents the same thing and said this can only be done by calculations of a heliocentric model and projecting the results into a flat earth model and using bendy light in an impossible manner. My man made a demo of it, a real model that did it. It doesn't require any of that.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I still like to give Shane full credit for doing it first, but in order of historical accuracy, all of Asia did it first, then Bislin, then Shane.
But I did it loudest, so
you did it well. I don't know, man. I think this guy did it the hardest. He went on tour, he had millions of viewers before social media, bro.
Was he from China?
Japan.
Okay, cool.
Nihongo.
Oh, I forgot our agent in the Eastern lands is here. What's up, D3?
What up? I came late. How did you find all this?
So earlier today in Telegram, my buddy linked an image of this right here. And I was like, my pattern recognition kicked in. I was like, oh, that looks like ASCII grids and real objects being projected into a dome. Better investigate. And then so I, reverse image searched this and then tracked it down and translated different stuff that I found regarding it and found 2 really awesome resources that went over the history of it because there was a huge cosmological and philosophical battle to get, to suppress this belief system and the usefulness of this to replace it with heliocentrism.
Yo, do you know what years that was taking place?
Yes. So from the mid 1800s to the late 1800s. So some of
the same years as over here. Okay.
This was valid until the 1800s, huh?
Really, dude.
Yep.
There was a battle all over the world at all the same, like from 7 to I would say from 1680 to 1790 was the battle for the cosmos of the world around the Earth. Dude. That's my take.
There's definitely a bigger story here with more specific dates that we could definitely unwind because the way that they where was this one? The way that these guys talk about it, I mean, it's like these Jezzies and Christians came out of nowhere and just started. They were like, "Here's our calendar. Here's our astronomy. Here's Newtonian physics. Here's our Newtonian physics that back up our Christianity." They were like, "What?" Even though the Buddhist lads had the same thing, where their religion was kind of like the backbone of their physics and understanding of everything, they were repulsed that these guys were doing it. What? You guys think it's physically real? Or you because they at least understood that what they were putting forward, the reality that we see is an illusion. Whereas these guys were like, no, Newton.
That's attracting mass, guys.
Yeah. And the Buddhists were like,
oh, I bet you that has something to do with why they killed a lot of the educated peoples in different places as well.
Oh, you had to.
That's what they did when they took over anyway. That's part of communism takeover. That's part of the book 101. When you take over, kill all the smartest, best people. Yeah.
Dude, that's
Holy
SO
shit.
that's SOP though. I mean, let's be real, boys. If we
Yeah,
if we took over
sad, but
somewhere,
true.
what would we do? We'd have to kill all the strongest men, take the women.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, like I would never. Yeah, yeah. But that's what they did, man. That's definitely what they did. There's patterns of that.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Because I always wondered, like, how come all the other places ever bought into the same system, you know? But there you go.
Yeah. So
They
what
didn't
they
really buy
did
into it. They got bodied and kind of persuaded.
what they did specifically in Japan is they got the Meijing emperor to agree to their calendar. And once they got the solar calendar in, they were like, "How the fuck do we use this?"
Yeah,
And they were like,
changed everything.
they were like, "Oh, well, you know, the Earth, it's going around the sun. Yeah, you know, here's Newton, here's Snell's law." Like, dude, they introduced everything,
Wow.
and then the guys that saw through it were used all that to argue against it. But like, they literally just did the same thing they're doing now. They just took control of the curriculum. Introduce, like, all the children grew up on how to use latitude and longitude with the celestial sphere, terrestrial sphere model, and they were like, "Who's flat? What are you talking about again?"
Dude, there was a serious takeover, like from the 1700 early on. That's definitely what I found in my look for it. Like, and all the timing matches up. You're saying the same thing happened all across the world, and then of course, what do they do after they do the takeover? They rewrite history like it was like that all the time.
As if
Actually-
as if it always was. Yeah.
Yep, that's what happened.
Yeah, man, it's wild.
That is wild, bro.
Awesome prez though. Awesome find. Thanks to Habitat Verdad, or however we say his name. We'll get it right one day, dude.
Verdadro.
I think it just means flat Earth in Spanish or something.
Nah, we'll never know.
True Earth? I think it means True Earth. I
Nope,
don't know.
we'll never know. Could mean anything. There's no possible way for us to know. All right. Well, that's the Prezi. Sorry, it's a little brief, but it's all I got today.
Not every week needs to be 2.5 hours girther or whatever.
Feels wrong not doing a 2.5 hour.
No, we gotta mix
feel,
them up.
feel dirty. I feel like I need the calendar. Should have went for the calendar, guys.
Dude, just trying to explain calendars during eclipses took me like a half hour of a prez. So that's a whole prez on itself. That's one way they just obscured history. They're like, "Oh, how do you guys tell time? Yeah, that's neat. Look, watch this. You see the sun? Let's change everything. Let's count it like this. Let's just give dates. Like what? Fuck, dude. How do I know what's happening?"
Yeah. All right, well, we will go ahead and wrap it up. See you guys on, what are we doing Thursday? There's something Thursday. Clubhouse. We'll be clubhousing on Thursday, so make sure you tune into that. We'll be giving the boys and girls over there a little celestial theodolite update, touching base with them. If you don't have the Clubhouse app yet on your iPhone and or Android, make sure you download it and then search hashtag Flat Earth Gang on there, and you will find their room, and they're in there pretty much all week, every day, all day. So if you want to meet some like-minded individuals, go hit them up. They're good people. And then Sunday,
How about,
go ahead.
remember, we need a coffee commercial.
Gotcha. So Sunday, make sure you tune in to Glowbusters. Mana Stone's going to be doing a presentation on shadow sets and the angle that the sun sets at, with 70% of its light distribution still out. So that'll be cool. And then Liliana is going to explain to us how Vedic cosmology and brushtail coffee are intertwined cosmologically and philosophically. Go ahead, Lily. Take it away.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Hi, folks. Yeah, they always let me out of the dungeon to do a commercial. So I love doing the commercials because it's the few moments I can get out of the dungeon, look at the real sky and the sun, and praise everything.
Apparent.
Oh, yeah, the Vedic. Huh?
I think I was just messing with you.
What's
Go ahead. I was saying apparent sky. You said real sky. I was just messing with you.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, the Vedic people were also flat earthers, and they did believe that there are physical realms, like even subterranean physical realms, like way down there. They're very interesting. But when the cabal came to India, they just mucked everything up. So you have like 100 different theories, and yeah, it's all very confusing. But I can tell the real stuff from the fake stuff because I'm from there. But yes, going to Brushtail Coffee, you guys remember that I told you about my computer and how I accidentally spilled coffee on it and it wasn't working before, but then after spilling the coffee, it started working. Well, guess what? I was making a smoothie the other day with all this lovely farmers market berries that are in season right now, this summer fruit, and the darn blender wouldn't work. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to just take a pinch of Brushtail Coffee and just sprinkle it on the blender because what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I thought. So I did that just because I thought there's nothing to lose but a pinch of coffee, right? And so I did that, and boom, bada boom, bada bang, that blender started working. Oh my God. Brushtail Coffee is so magical. Super yummy too. So get it. It's fair trade, shade grown, and organic, even though sometimes it may not be certified, but it's good coffee, folks. So get in there and buy some Brushtail Coffee.
Thank you very much, Lily. Much appreciated for that advertisement. Now, back to the dungeon. You know where you belong.
Nice.
Thank you for the few moments of freedom.
In any of your research, have you guys ever read anything about the motives behind this type of kind of takeover that happened?
Yeah.
You think it came
So
from like a religious or something else?
yeah, so they just benevolently want to share their the information that they found, and this is all just organic, and it's always been a globe, and that's it.
Well, dude, have you guys ever seen heliosorcery? That guy Chris goes through the actual like learning against learning that took place when the institutions fought against institutions and the Jesuits took over, and it was definitely framed as a religious sort of battle, and it was for God how they were framing it, and it was during the Crusades, and of course history revisionists will write it from each side, so you could definitely tell that there was at the same time there was a group of people that tried to take over all of science and religion via philosophy, and then we're successful because that's where we're still at today. But yeah, dude, heliosorcery goes through the history and the religiosity and the motives and how that happened. It traces it through the 16th and 17th century.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
check.
a great what's it called? A documentary. And I think maybe we should try and see if we can put a link to it, Shane.
I'll find
Yep,
it.
I was being lazy. You're right, Liana.
All right, lads and ladettes, see you guys.